Okay, so this is tutorial part 5. I'm going to do a little bit more on the graphics. Here we're going to use some graphics overlays, and so you can see how to do that kind of stuff. So we're going to, if you were just doing the sound tutorial, you can collapse these things back down so that they're not super huge. And then we'll just move this down here so it's a little bit more. And then we'll this time we're going to want a little bit more actually towards the video, so you can bring the thing in the middle down. So we have a little bit more video tracks in the view. We are going to want to see what's on the screen though, because it's going to be important to decide where things go. So we can go ahead and just use the same clips that we have already set up. We're not worried about the sound and stuff in this, and so all right, so now go over to the project, and you're going to see a bunch of files at the top of the list of files that we have in the project that have this pink tag to them, whereas the video clips and whatnot have a blue tag. The sequences have a green tag. These have this sort of pink tag. And so why don't you just grab the arrow underscore B, this should be the blue arrow, and then just drag it onto the timeline on top of the video clips that you already have in there. So if you had pulled the video clips up to the V3 track in the last one the way I did, then it'll put a new track, V4, will get automatically added to take this new graphics thing. So what we're going to do for right now is, just so we don't get too cluttered, we're just going to move everything back down. So just grab and drag them down a couple tracks. This scrolls up and down on the track, like that. So, okay, so now I've got the video on this track 1, and we've got our arrow on this V2 track here. And so as you can see, it's just over top here. Now click on the arrow B piece here, and then you're going to go up to the effects controls, make sure effects controls is selected, and now we're going to use this position and the scale. Alrighty, so let's say we want to have it point to her hands on the guitar. So if you go down here, you'll see a rotation, and so just click and then drag, and you can rotate the thing around. And so I think that's probably going to be about right. And then this one moves it up and down. So if you click and drag left and right on that, or up and down, it will move it up and down. Then this one will do left, right. So do the same thing. Let's say we just want to point to her hand there. It's a little bit big, I think, so let's hit the scale. And we're going to just click and drag on that, make it a little bit smaller, and then just adjust where it's pointing. I think that's pretty good. And now we might want to put a text box over, so this arrow is pointed this, and then something explaining what it's pointing to. So go back over to the project and scroll down and find one of these boxes. There's a whole bunch of different ones. If you want to preview them, and just double click on them, and you can see what the different things are. So let's use this long box because I want to demonstrate something. So just click and drag that in, and you're going to put it on top of sort of the stack of stuff here. So now click on the pink strip here on your timeline to select that, and go back over to effects controls. And now we're going to just hit this uniform scale. There's other boxes here that I made that are different dimensions that would be better to use if you're going to shrink it, but I just want to demonstrate that what it looks like when you do shrink it. So we're going to unclick this uniform scale. So now we can scale the height and width at different amounts. So if we scale the width, you can see that for the most part, you have a little bit of a range where you can get away with it. but then it starts to distort a little too much, and especially if you're going to do the height too, this can get a little bit weird. Now, sometimes it looks okay, and I actually like the look on it, but sometimes if you get too small, it just gets weird. Like, that actually looks kind of cool, but it's a little small to actually be useful. But just to show you that that's what that uniform scale does and how it can shrink and make it look a little weird sometimes. But yeah, so you can just play around with that just to see how they work. So if you get to a point where it's like, oh, this one's getting a little too stretched out, maybe you try the the square box or the large box instead, or one of these other different styles. So all right, but let's go back to effect controls. Select our box long element, and we're going to go back to the uniform scale. So you notice that it put it back into the original aspect ratio. All right, so let's move this over and actually use this like we want to use it. So now you'll notice that since this box is on top of the arrow, it is literally on top of it. So if we moved the arrow to be above, now the arrow is above the box. So that's something that you just want to keep an eye on, so that you know what stuff is being stacked up on top of what other stuff. So just because sometimes you'll be like, why isn't this thing showing up on my screen? And it's just because it's being hidden by something that's on top of it. And then you just need to reorder things to get it to show. All right, so now that we've got that set up, let's go ahead and add some text. So you're going to click on the T down here on your tools and just drag a little text box over top. As you can see, it puts this graphic thing in to hold the text, and we're just going to write "and!" exclamation point. Oh no, we can't see it. We can't see it. What's wrong here? Well, it's still using the same text settings that we had before. So it's black text and it's really huge. So unfortunately, it's so big that we can't actually select it with the mouse. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this, the selection tool, and now we're selecting that whole box. So now if we go up to the effects controls and we go to text hand, it always puts what the text says next to the little text. That's helpful. We're going to click the arrow, expand it, and as you can see, the text is black and it's really big. So for this size, let's just click on it and let's make it really small compared to what it was before. So let's make that like 80. And then we're going to change the appearance to white. And now we can see it. So let's center it just to make it nice. And then click on the thing to scroll down a little bit. And we're going to use these positioning tools here, since we were playing with those before. This is actually positioning the text box on the screen. There's another thing that you can do where if you go down to the motion and do it, this is actually moving it in relation to the whole screen. So I don't really know why it has it in there twice basically, but you can, sometimes it gets a little frustrating because you forget which one you've moved. So I always just try to use the one that's in the actual text settings, not on the layer settings, which are this stuff here. So just be careful of that. All right. But now we have some stuff there. So as you can see, our text is now going much longer than our box. Our box comes in way sooner than our text. So what we'll do is we'll just clean this up. So since the graphics elements we brought in were just single image files, you can stretch their timeline markers as long as you want. Whereas with the video clips, you're obviously constrained by the actual length of the clip. So these can be as short or as long as you want. Let's just make them all match. Now that we've got everything sort of stacked up like we like it, let's go ahead and put some transitions and stuff on here to make this stuff move. So let's have it slide in from the side here. Then we'll have the text fade in. and then we'll have the whole thing slide back out. So let's go over to the effects panel here, effects, and then choose the video transitions. First thing we'll do is we'll just slap a film dissolve on the text. And we'll scroll down to the slide. Now this is my favorite thing to do. I really like the whip, but it doesn't whip out, if that makes any sense. It whips in, but it doesn't whip out for some reason. So I don't use it unless I'm just trying to do something with just one thing. Otherwise, I use this push transition a lot. So we drag push onto each of the box and the arrow, and then drag push onto all three of them on the outside. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to stagger our text, because you can see the text isn't actually fading in before the other piece comes in. So what we want to do is we just want to have the text start to fade in when the this piece finishes its portion of the transition. So we're just going to move, just going to drag that down so that it starts when the transition is done on the other two. Now we'll go down to the end, and
guitar and oscilloscope
see it went the wrong direction. We want it to slide the other way. So what we do is select the transition, and now up in the effects controls, scroll down, and you'll see a checkbox that says reverse. So now it's going to basically do the transition, but it's going to send it the other direction. And so this is something that you'll use a lot on these kinds of things where you're doing these different kind of, if you wanted to slide in from this side, then you would reverse these over here rather than reversing these. But you just want to click on all three of them, select reverse. And now it should all slide out together. Okay, so as you can see, you can use all sorts of different things. Just in combination with some of these transitions, you can use these pre-made graphics things that I've got here to spice things up pretty good. That's about it for this installment. So the next one coming up will be how to output this thing.